When did people first come to this island? You heard about the terrific ice ages? Yeah? They sort of came down and up and down, and they were huge, like glaciers. And it was like a crusher, a steamroller, so it moved rocks. And we were often at the edge. The River Thames is where it is now, but it was probably further up and further down. So all this crushing, you ended up with a lot of brick buildings. That's the main material. So brick and clay. What are yeah? Bricks are made from clay. Yeah. What are pots made from? What, clay. So before there was a need for bricks, they were making pots. So there's clay, there's sand, and there's gravels.
How could we improve our pond dipping?
Some of you were going a little bit too deep and picking up too much mud. If you have too much mud in the trays, then you can't see anything else in there. So you need a little bit more practice using the net. But you did quite well. And we caught a lot of stuff. Now the important thing is to keep the net bag behind. It mustn't go like that, okay? So, you see I've got the net bag behind every time I turn it round?
It looks like a massive tadpole.
Right.
Well, that pond is a bit small, so I thought they could adjust it to a bigger size so the more fish could come in there and it would be more fascinating.
I think you're absolutely right. The bigger the pond, the more creatures, more different sorts of creatures you will have living in it. The best pond would have shallow areas and deeper areas. It would also have a vegetation growing along the edge, like you've got in a natural pond. You know, you've got, I'm not saying reeds, but that sort of thing around the edge. They're called marginal plants. You could have more plants that grow in the water. Because a lot of things eat plants, like snails and plants and so forth. So there's a lot of ways you could improve the pond, but I mean, from what we've seen today, it's not bad, you know. There's not many ponds that have quite so many water fleas as that.
An insect is one that has 3 parts to it. It has a body, yeah, can anyone notice? The thorax, the middle bit, and the abdomen, 3 bits in it. How many legs does an insect have?
4, 6,
6 normally, but spiders often have 8. And things like woodlice, they're not technically insects, but they're part of this larger group of animals that have all these segmented bodies. But looking at this will help you identify them, yeah?
The guessing game.
Oh, it's like a guessing game, isn't it, when you identify something? You have to have a bit of a guess and then see if you can work out. Be a bit of a detective, a wildlife detective.
Well, what we do, we just go and have a little walk round, because if you're going to look for wildlife, that could be plants or animals, yeah? But we need to look at different habitats, because it might be in a pond, might be in a hedge, it might be in the soil, it might be in the compost heap, it might be in the orchard. And this is an interesting evening primrose plant, and one of the animals comes to that, and it's bats. Bats love to come to the flowers of these evening primroses.
And they eat them up.
No, they don't eat them. They take the nectar, nice juicy stuff in the middle there. That's what they're after.
Where were you? And what did you see?
We found a Himalaya birch tree.
Right, good. Where did you go?
We went to the compost heap.
And what did you find at the
We
compost
found
heap?
a bamboo worm,
Oh, right, yes.
a newspaper,
A newspaper.
and we found loads of ants.
Loads of
Ants.
ants.
I saw an ant.
An ant? Okay.
Loads of leaves in it, so like snails and slugs can eat.
compost bin being another habitat for animals, mainly slugs, snails, lots of little woodlice, lots of pill bugs, lots of centipedes. Very good spot, but we need compost heaps. We need the compost to keep the fertility in the soil. And if we didn't have the compost to put back on the garden, it's the broken down leaves and the broken down stems of plants and things. If we didn't have that to put back on the garden, we would lose a lot of the fertility. The plants that we want to grow, the beans and things like that, wouldn't grow so well. So the compost heap is very important. The animals that decay the leaves and things, they're important. And here's a lovely apple. It's absolutely rotten. That's on the way to being compost. So there's a big chain of activity going on, and a food chain. You know, we're at the top of the food chain. We're eating lots of stuff, but we depend on lots of things underneath for our welfare, our benefit.
There's lots and lots of life cycles in a composting.
Wow.
And here they haven't even got bees or wasps or slow worms or grass snakes. So there's even more. I mean, so that's a huge diversity. And so it's a food source for all sorts of things.
It's a cycle, and if we were too tidy in the garden, we take away the ability of some of the birds, for example, to search for things. If you look at the chickens, for example, they scratch around, don't they? They're scratching things up, and we need to be like that in the garden, not too tidy. Give them a chance. The blackbirds and so on, you'll see them searching around in the leaves for something to eat.
So we might use this book this morning, the one on bugs and insects. If we're going to make a bug hotel, we might find something that we need to identify, so this book might come in handy. If we're building a hotel for a bug, what are we going to provide for a bug? What are we doing for a bug? Rooms and a box.
Places to like hide away.
Places to hide away.
Usually like
What were
stuff in the middle.
scientists use to describe what we're providing? A proper scientist. Something beginning with H. The bugs with a habitat. Well done, Shirley, well done. So, what sort of habitat do bugs and insects like? Where do they choose to live? Soil?
Some bugs like to live in like dark places, like where they can hide away.
So dark places with soil, and what else would provide some dark places?
Warm places.
They might choose a warm, dark place. They might choose grass to live in. Plant pots would be a good habitat. Remember, we've been lifting up plant pots, haven't we, to find out what's burrowed underneath. Bricks, excellent.
Leaves.
Leaves. So we've got leaves, we've got grass, we've got flower pots, soil.
I mean, they're a really good way of, trapping all the insects and bugs, because sometimes you can tidy up too much in a garden, and by having bug houses around the garden, you always know there's going to be a habitat for all the lovely creepy crawlies and insects that hibernate over the winter. But we still do try to leave logs around the garden, but we know we've always got those there. And they're great fun to create, because you can make them how you want them to.
creepy crawlers in my bathroom.
And
Yeah, lots
I've
of
seen
spiders.
some that are very, very tall. People have used old reels that people tie wires around, really tall ones, be as tall as this room. But the insects, they don't mind probably. But it's just your fun bit.
We're going to do like some cosy things first on that bit.
If you build it here, it's going to have to be taken down because people use this area, where if we sort of direct you to where it could become a little bit more permanent. And yes, that's your basic structure, but you've then got to provide the habitat for the
Encased
First we put wooden planks and built it up with leaves and different things like that. So there's
And
lots
we-
of different habitats.
First we think
Animals.
we could fill the grass and things in that big hole, but then we go get another one, which is better, and we flip it to make it like that.
What sort of insects and things do you think will go in there?
Spiders, slugs, creepy crawlies, lots of different things.
What is your favourite vegetable?
Favourite vegetable probably are the beans. Where you've seen all the red flowers and the plants climbing up. Those plants produce lovely beans, and I like beans to eat. So yes, I think that's my favourite in this garden.
What is your favourite plant?
Well, I think the corn cobs might be a favourite plant because later on they have some nice corn cobs there, and I like eating them as well.
Why are plants and leaves and stems and all that green?
Well,
Is there a point to that?
yes, there is a point to that because they have to have chlorophyll inside, which is a chemical, right? But it needs to make energy, so it's working with the sunlight to make energy, and the plant needs energy to grow, whatever, to make flowers, to make seeds. So it's very, very important to have the chlorophyll there and the green colour in the plant. They're not all green, some get away without being green.
And I think what you've found is that this site has got lots of different habitats. It's one place, but lots of different habitats you call a diversity. And the more diversity, the healthier things are. So this site is very, very interesting. We looked at a map today of 1945 and it just had allotments. And now this space has got sort of herbaceous borders, it's got nut trees, it's got the original old trees, it's got a little orchard area with bees, it's got a herb area which is obviously fantastic for pollinators. It's got woodland edge, so we have amazing early spring, you know, before the leaves have come, you've got anemones and snowdrops, bluebells, all that sequence of the woodland here. You've got that here, and then you've got sort of like protected growing in polytunnels, and then you've got the vegetable plots, and also we've got sort of the buildings that can be used. People come for meetings and learn and socialise. That's a habitat too for people, and it's diverse. Lots of different people come, as do all sorts of creatures.